the offerings for Tanya and Israel. One, can you shut that door too, so we can? And if you're you got your Bibles, go to First Samuel. Before we get to First Samuel, I want to give you a little thought here. This quick thought that I'm gonna give you to is talking about jumping to conclusions. Now, none of you never do this, right? This is only just like, we never jump to conclusions. And I just want to give you a quick little thing about hopefully this, just leave it down there. Hopefully this story, it'll be like this. I don't know why, but I heard this story this week, and it was just like burned into my mind about jumping to conclusions. So I had to share it with you because I don't even know why, but Romans 12:17-20 says, "Recompense to no man evil for evil, provide things honest in the sight of all men, if it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath, for it is written, Vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. Therefore, if thy enemy hunger, feed him. If he thirst, give him drink. For in so doing, thou shalt heap coals of fire on his head." This is, and a lot of this in Romans talks just about the way that we are supposed to behave as Christians and treat other people. And honestly, it's pretty hard to do. These few verses here is not an easy thing to do. I'll just tell you, fleshly speaking, we do not behave in this way. It's only the Spirit of God that's going to help us to actually do things like, hey, if someone does evil to me, do you know what the natural thing is? To do evil back to them, right? Someone hurts me, I'm going to hurt them. To be honest in the sight of all men. I mean, I'm talking about not even just being, this is a lost thing in Christianity, where I'm just going to be an upright and honest in all my doings. And just all of these things are things about, just the human behavior that we're supposed to have. But James, we had these lessons on James, and this verse here, "Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath." This is kind of the opposite of what we naturally do is just jump to conclusions, right? We like to just, we hear something or we see something even, and we jump to conclusions like we know it all, right? Like we understand that person, what they did, what they said, and we've got all the answers, right? When most of the time, all we do is we only see a little sliver of something, or we only hear a little sliver of something, we only hear one side of it, whatever, and we've got the answer. We know what's going on, right? And this is so dangerous to do this in our Christian life, but it is something that we do quite often. In our relationships, we do this all the time. We jump to conclusions on what our kids are doing, what my spouse is doing, what my family member is saying, and we just jump to conclusions so quickly, and it hurts us. Rather than being swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath, like the Bible says, we immediately already know what's going on. Now, here's the story that I heard. It's a little gruesome, but there's this lady in Brooklyn. She was legally blind, so she could see, but not great. And one day she was getting up in her house, this was in 2016, and she fell, and she's a little older, and she heard a crack, and she knew right now, oh man, this is bad, because she had actually broken her hip. Now, she knew it was bad because she lived alone. She had, for the last 20 years, basically cut off all of her family and everybody that she knew, because she 20 years ago, she had a son that lived with her, and then he just up and left one day. And she was like, and she didn't really know why, but he just up and left. And for 20 years, she had just kind of shut everybody. She hadn't talked to any of her family for 20 years. And so there had been some family that tried to keep in contact with her. And so she somehow dragged herself to a phone and called the one person that had that she still knew their number, that had kind of kept in contact. It was I think it was like a nephew, and was able, luckily, to get in contact with them. They got her to the hospital. She now had a broken hip in the hospital, and then she came to the realization that the people told him, look, you cannot go back to the house that you're living in alone. It's like, you have all this rehab and all these things, it's frail. You're gonna have to go to assisted living or go live with somebody. And again, she hadn't had any contact with her family for 20 plus years, right? She had really literally shut herself off. And all of this stemmed from her son just kind of up and leaving, and she didn't understand why. And he had like zero contact, like left for out of the blue to her, and for 20 years had zero contact. And so because of all that had happened, she had just spiraled, right? I think it looks nice, but I think actually inside it was like a hoarder's house, you know, like she had just spiraled kind of out of control. Well, it come to find out she's not going to be able to go back to this house. She does have to go to the hospice. And so one of the family members came to her house to get some of her things so they can get her into the hospice. Her family member goes into the house, and she goes into the first bedroom there that she sees, and she goes white, screams, runs out of the house. And it was like, what did she see? Well, come to find out, this mother that thought her son up and left 20 years ago didn't actually leave. He had actually, from just natural causes, passed away in his room. And for 20 years, when this lady came there, 20 years later, it was literally a skeleton that was still had like his clothes on and everything else. 20 years.
How did mom not see that?
Believe me, how did mom? Well, she's legally blind, and again, hoarder, whatever else, you know. But for 20 years, this son had sat there. He didn't up and leave.
Was she legally
he had some, I guess they found out that it was like he had some sort of health problem that and he passed away just from natural causes, and in his bed passed away. And 20 years later, now she had spiraled out of control. I think she already had some hoarding tendencies before that, but she was like completely shut everybody else off for 20 years because her son had just up and left her and all this stuff. Well, she jumped to the biggest of conclusions, because no, he hadn't up and left. He was literally in the house with her for 20 years. He was in the house with her. It was crazy, right? But how much damage was done? Obviously, the son died, passed away, but she lost all the relationships with her family and friends, and just she shut everybody else out. And so just from her jumping to conclusions, right? And she had decided already, no, my son left, all of a sudden he must hate me, he must do whatever, you know, and no, actually your son just passed away from natural causes. And I don't know, I saw this thing, I was like, man, so oftentimes we jump to so many conclusions in life, where we jump to a conclusion, and because we jump to that conclusion, it messes up relationships, it messes up families, it messes up churches. Man, how many churches aren't destroyed from without? Almost always churches are destroyed from within. And almost always it's people, they've decided, well, that person did that on purpose to hurt me. And most of the times it's not even the case. Like if we would actually go to the person, they'd be like, oh man, I'm so sorry. I didn't even mean to do that X, Y, or Z thing. But because of us jumping to conclusions, it gets destroyed. And so many things in life are this way. And so just being careful not to jump to conclusions, because it hurts in so many areas of our life. And as a Christian, again, it's not what we're called to do. As a Christian, we're supposed to be giving mercy to people, even if it is the truth that they did try to hurt us on purpose. We're not supposed to give evil back to someone who does evil. We're supposed to be good. We're supposed to feed our enemy, right? We're supposed to be doing good back to those that hurt us. And most of the time, it's not even that. Most of the time, it's people that we like, that we are, friends with, it's our family, and we jump to these conclusions and end up hurting other people because of it. So just being careful with that. Now, let's get back to 1 Samuel. I already talked about this last week. We talked about Hannah and Samuel, and we talked about the different types of government, monarchy, a theocracy. Theocracy, again, is a biblical form of government that we will have, right? In heaven, we're going to have a theocracy. There's going to be a God that rules over us. That is the true form of government that we should have, but it doesn't last. And but anyways, we talked about Hannah, her desiring to have a son, Samuel. Samuel, she finally is able to have a son, Samuel. She gives him back to the Lord. Because of that, then she's able to have more kids, 5 more kids, three boys, 3 girls and 2 boys, I think it was. Anyways, and Samuel gets called of the Lord, right? And all that started with a mother who just was seeking after God. Now, I did want to touch on this. I wasn't able to last week, but Samuel, and just like before him, Eli, unfortunately, both Eli's sons and Samuel's sons don't choose to follow Christ, and they do some. They're really bad. They take bribes. They cheat people out of stuff. They're stealing things. Like not great. Okay. And there's a whole other thing I could talk to you about, all of that and how, just because you think my kids go to Christian school, they're going to turn out good or whatever else. There's so much more that goes into it, and I don't have time to go through all that. But what I did want to highlight is that when Eli had 2 sons that were also priests, and when they were mistreating the people, and when Samuel had sons that were also, again, mistreating the people, do you know that when they were mistreated, God's commands to the people did not change? That's interesting. God knew that there was some, they were not just they jumped to conclusions and they just, they accidentally mistreated somebody. No, these were bad leaders. These were people that were actually evil, right? Doing wrong things. And do you know what God wanted from his people? To follow him. I want you to do what's right, even when these were actually wicked leaders over them. They were mistreated. And yet, when that happened, God's commandments to his people did not change. And this is where being a Christian becomes hard, because it is very easy to do right when you've got all these people loving you and helping you along the way. But when they mistreat you, when they fall, when you see their humanity, do you know that all that is going to happen if you're going to be a Christian? All that will happen. God's commands don't change, even when that happens. And just for the people, even though these wrong leaders happened, God said, I want this to be a theocracy. I want to be your God. You all follow me and nobody else. Now, I don't know if I'm sure this had if you're looking through it, the human nature side of it, the people wanting to have a king, I'm sure some of this bad leaders here played into them wanting to have a king. Because we're going to get to this in a second. Remember, all the people, actually, let's go there. If you're in 1 Samuel, go to 1 Samuel 8. 1 Samuel 8 and look at verse 5. And said unto him, Behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy ways. Oh, look at that. Samuel, your sons aren't doing good. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations. So Samuel's sons not doing right played into the fact that the people wanted a king and not God over them. Do you know that even though they were wicked and wrong, God still said, I don't care. I want you to follow me and me alone. You don't need to have a king. But then that's why I want to highlight that even when you have people, look, this is, I can't stress you over the years and decades, how many people, oh, well, I used to go to church, but so-and-so this. Oh, well, I used to be serious, but then somebody did blank. Over and over and over and over again, that happens. And so if I could just, look, I am going to disappoint you. I am, okay? People are going to disappoint you. They are. That does not change that we should be following God and choosing to follow him even when other people hurt us or mistreat us, okay? And so that's important, because if we allow people's treatment of us, it's going to send us down a wrong path like it did here, where now they say, oh, well, give us a king. And look at verse 7. And now it says, God's talking. The Lord said unto Samuel, hearken unto the voice of the people and all that they say unto thee, for they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them. And now, because of somebody else's treatment, now you are rejecting God, right? And again, God, Samuel's sons, God was very clear. They were wicked. They were wrong. But that didn't change that when you decide to go off of what God is doing, you are not rejecting those people. You're rejecting God when you do it. So you got to be very careful. This whole humanity thing, look, a church is made up of a whole bunch of humanity, and we're going to have problems, right? And homes are made up of a bunch of humanity, and we're going to have problems. It doesn't change the fact, though, that we are still supposed to do what God calls us to do. This is like real Christian living, right? It's not. This is not the. This is where it comes down to, okay, am I truly a Christian and going to be a follower of Christ? Well, this is when it becomes hard. Keep going in 1 Samuel 8. Go to, I think it's 19. Yeah, make sure I have it right here. At 1 Samuel 8:19. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey. Okay, so here's what's happening. The rest of chapter 8, Samuel says, hey, you know what, people? Okay, God says, hey, you rejected me, but I'll let you have a king. He says, but first go tell him what's going to happen. Here's what he says. He says, look, if you go and have a king over you, you know what the king's going to do? He's going to start taxing you. He's going to take all your money. He's going to start taking your sons and your daughters. He's going to make them to be his servants and this and that. And he's like, they're going to take from you all this stuff. He's like, lay out the clear picture, right? And he lays out this clear picture. And you know what the children of Israel still say? 19. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, nay, but we will have a king over us, that we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. They said, you know what? No. Okay, sure. Lay out all this plan. And this is where it hurts too, because over the years, you will see that head knowledge, we know it's right to follow God, but our spirit of flesh, still, even knowing that there's maybe some bad consequences over here, we still go and do it. Children of Israel knew the consequences of having a king, and yet they still want to be like everyone else. And so it's very, this is a cautionary tale, and I want to tell you, like, they want to be like all the other nations. And you say, man, these guys, they just want to be like all the other nations. But you know, if I told you today, it's like, okay, are you going to choose a king or God? You're going to say, oh, we're going to choose God. Are we going to choose a president, or are we going to choose the Lord Almighty? Oh, we're going to choose the Lord Almighty. Or where are you going to choose? And you fill in the blank that we're going to choose, or are you going to choose God? We all know, head knowledge, it's the right thing to choose God. But yet, so oftentimes, we don't choose the thing of God that we're supposed to choose, the action that God, what God would want us to choose. And we say, no, I'm going to just do me today, right? And I want to give you this kind of back and forth of these two, because this is, I know this is a whole nation and it's just one person, Hannah. This is typically how it is in the Christian life. There is the few and there is the crowd. And if we're not careful, we will not be like a Hannah. We will be like the nation, who they said, let us be like everybody else. With Hannah, she went to God. The nation, they went to a man. They said, give us a king. We want a man. And we are so, even as Christians, so often we want to solve it in our own problems. We want to go to our friend, tell them all of our problems, right? We want to go, give us the tea, give us the gossip. Hey, what's going on here, right? Go complain about the boss, complain about this, and we don't go like Hannah did. She went to the right spot. She went to God. She poured out her complaint to God. She showed the need that she needed to God, not to a man. Hannah was sold out. The nation, they were casual. They were the casual Christian. They were, it's like the bandwagon. I think I said that. Hannah was unwavering. The nation, they were a bandwagon. They wanted God when it was convenient. They wanted God when they needed him. But then when they saw that all the other nations had kings, they say, oh, let me be like them. If we're going to be like a Hannah, we are going to be need to be sold out and unwavering, even when the nation or all the people, it's just casual. They got this little bandwagon. Hey, yeah, I'm a Jesus follower. You know, if I'm when I grew up, it's a WWJD bracelet. I got one of those. And if it's whatever the slogan is, now I just there's a slogan I can't remember now. It's like I see it everywhere. Man, now of course I can't think of it. But there's always slogans that you'll see these casual Christians having. Oh, well, sure. That's one. He is. Yeah, not of this world. Okay, there's always. Okay, look, there's. All right. Yeah. Look, there's always these little slogans. Man, okay. Next week I'm gonna have it because it's bothering me. I was like, but there's always these little slogans. Okay, and it's cool to say wear the T-shirt or to wear the bracelet or whatever else. But that's just they're just a bandwagon. They're just casual. How sold out and unwavering are you? Hannah, it was lonely for Hannah. It was a lonely time. The nation, it's crowded. Look, to be like the nations and all the other nations, that's what everybody's like. To walk a path that's different, it will at times be lonely. But it's the right path. God was pleased with Hannah. He was not pleased with the nation. Hannah was favored by God. The nation rejected God. And I would encourage us to look. There's going to be times in our life where it is going to get lonely. It is going to get where, man, we're just weird. We're just different, right? It's going to be times where it feels like everyone is against us. That is the natural thing if you're going to choose the narrow path. Path that few travel. And when I'm talking about this, I'm not talking about the world. I'm talking about Christians. There is a narrow path that most Christians don't follow, where they choose to be a Hannah and not the nation. That's just the casual. And I would encourage you, there is rewards that are long-term rewards with this. Hannah had some long-term rewards. Samuel was a long-term reward of Hannah. But again, it's something that is at times lonely. All right, let's pray. Father, I love you, Lord. I just pray that you'd help us. God, help us to learn from this